Oldsmobile Toronado. Hang on while I fetch the keys out of my Corvair battery tray. I made a video a couple of days ago, and I forgot that my LG V10 device has no sound. So now I have a headset on that I just got from Amazon for 10 bucks. I gotta put this thing back on with one hand. I tried going with Bluetooth, but the problem with Bluetooth is threefold. One, the Bluetooth headset rocks back and forth when you walk, ding, 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 ding. Then the battery goes dead, then you can't find it, it falls between the seats. And I've got so many cars and so many seats. So I'm gonna make this video for 5 minutes and tell you what I said in the video, because you couldn't hear a thing because I forgot to put my headset on because my microphone's broken. Wheel bearing. You watched the video, you saw the chewed up wheel bearing, you saw the flattened roller. Well, here's the remains. So what happened was the wheel bearing was dry. Someone serviced the brakes on this thing, presumably in the last 3 years from the previous guy who bought it in Anderson, California, or Redding, California. And they put new brakes on it, cylinders, the brake lines are rust free, so they didn't change the brake pipes. And they didn't grease the outer wheel bearings. The inner one had a drop of grease, but the outer one was dry, and there was no cotter pin either, which didn't make a difference because the nut didn't come loose as a washer. Anyways, so I took it all apart, and I hammered on the back of the hub for 5 minutes, and I flattened it a bit, and eventually it popped off because this little gizmo, let me get some, I'll put the keys back. This place is a disaster. I use this brake clean. They'll make this stuff illegal. It's too good. $2 at Walmart. They've got them at AutoZone. Buy one, get one free, but they're $4 there, $4.50. Might as well just go to Walmart and buy them at regular price for $2.19. Works great. So this inner part of the bearing was seized to the shaft, but I hammered on the spindle, the hub rather, and it came off of the spindle, and I took some crocus cloth, emery cloth, and I went back and forth on the spindle and smoothed it. Took about 10 minutes of rubbing it back and forth until I can get the brand new Timken made in USA bearing on. Timken's the last American bearing manufacturer that I know of. They're all gone to China or Mexico, and who knows what you get from those countries. So this is what's left of my bearing, but the rollers aren't actually that bad. This won't focus that well, but they're a little chewed up, not too bad. So I put the new bearing on, put it all back together, greased the backing plate, which no rust because this car's from California. And that's that. That was a pretty simple operation. I did check the other side when I was at Musclepalooza, and there is some grease on the bearing, so the other side's okay. Here's the bearing that I bought for the inner. The inner was perfect, perfect, perfect. I cleaned it thoroughly, and it was smooth as a baby's you know what but. Made in USA. These at Rock Auto were $6 for the inner one, which is larger, and $3 for the outer one with $5 shipping, so the whole thing was 15 bucks, not even. So I didn't put the inner one on, it was perfect. Then I did something else here, which you're wondering, watching my video with no sound, because I just forgot that my phone doesn't record sound unless I have it on speakerphone talking to someone or a headset talking to you. I made these seat extension brackets, which are pretty simple. All they are is a piece of 3/16 flat stock, 4 inches wide. If I would have had a piece 4.5 inches wide, you wouldn't see the washer going over the edge. But this is what I happen to have. So I had Mr. Stanley Crud drill it so that the pieces of steel line up with the original holes, which are there. The seat used to mount, back used to mount here, and front used to mount there. But I wanted to move my seat back, so I did that. I moved it back 5 inches. I had to hammer down the floor over here because as the seat rolls back, it also rolls down. They figure if you're taller, you've got a taller top of your body, so they give you more room. The seat rolls backwards and down. So I hammered that down quite viciously until it hit the frame. And then I reinstalled my seat. The only problem is, now my carpet has this big empty space here. So I've got the Rally 350 hidden inside the building over there. When the fellow puts new carpets in, brand new carpets, his carpets are torn over on that side. I'll take a strip off and I'll just lay it underneath, and it won't look perfect. And when and if I get new carpets for this thing, maybe I'll call the manufacturer and ask if they can make my carpets identical, just 5 inches further back. so that you don't have the ugly exposed area here where my padding is. And then my buddy, I'll do a shout out. My buddy GPL, oh, got the flash on, hang on a second. What's my buddy in Minnesota? GPL something 87? Grand Prix GPLE, is that it? He went to a junkyard in French Lake, Minnesota, and they've got a bunch of old cars. 20 acres of old cars are gone, but they still had 3 Tornados, a 67 and 2 66s, just like this. And you can tell the difference because back in the days, they only made 3 or 4 different models. 5 models, 6 models. Anyways, the 67s have a hash here. This is more like the front horizontal, like the Cord, 1936-37 Cord, the first front-wheel drive car. And in 67, they also got rid of these eyebrows here. They made the front panel go straight up so it doesn't have this depression. That might have been for a fog light or a turn signal or something that they put over here. But it's got these black things here. I don't know if the 67 has these, but it definitely does not have this. They smoothed it. So anyways, I've got a couple there. And what I need, as I told Mr. GPLE, I told him I needed a fuel line. He says, me too! He's getting a fuel line for his 350, 326 2-barrel Firebird. I need a fuel line, and Mr. Spike Punk also needs one for his slightly demolished 66 that he's going to rebuild next year. And what I also need, Mr. GPLE, is this relay right here for the horn, right there. And lots of GMs use these, usually on that side. And I've got a couple spares, but oh, too bad it's not here. Where did I put it? Anyways, there's a point in there with a magnet, and that's what makes the horn sound. It's a junction for the battery, plus it's a horn relay, and mine is bad, so if you move it manually, you get a horn honk, but you can't get in there to service it because the points are all the way at the bottom. So if anybody's going to a junkyard that has some mid-60s GMs, a lot of them use a very similar horn relay with a little silver cap that is difficult to pry off. The other one that I had, points are corroded and you can't get inside there to service it. You got to drill the rivets and the whole thing falls apart, and it's very fragile. So if anybody wants to get me, they held on with 2, maybe 3/8 bolts, and then you just cut the battery cable, unless they're nice originals. These are nice originals. It'd be a shame to get rid of those and put the crappy ones on from Napa or O'Reilly's or AutoZone or Crappy Tire, wherever you do your shopping. This is an original battery cable. Actually, both of them are, which is a nice touch to see a car with original parts as opposed to seeing it with hose clamps and a little piece of aluminum tubing. I like when things are original. Little covers and fuel filters that are mangled right between the oil filler. And, God, I hate that kind of stuff. They touched up this thing with blue paint, so if anybody wants to get me spare parts like power windows and cornering lamps and telescopic steering and headrests and power 6-way seat, and I need a muffler for this thing. I think I was showing you the muffler in the previous video, and it was all show and no tell because I had no speaker, no microphone. Look at the muffler. It's rusted. And there's one with my name on it near French Lake. But I'm waiting for Mr. GPLE to find some time in his busy schedule. So that's what happened to that video. And I've also got some news on the diesel front. I ordered a belt from Rock Auto, but then when the order came in, I realized I forgot to order the belt. So I ordered another belt, and it just came in, and I had to struggle with this 1/2-inch extra long ratchet to get it into the idler, to pull the idler tensioner way over to put that belt on. I thought the belt was too short, but I checked the number, and it was the correct number. So I've got a new belt. Now I'm going to put the vacuum pump belt back on, and I always put it with the writing facing out because it just bugs me when you don't do it that way. Then I'll be able to crank this baby up and drive it. I just ordered some brand new tires from Discount Tire Direct. Some Hankook white walls, $57 each, and I ordered them, junk. I ordered them one size bigger. I ordered 2 15/75s because I have 205/75s, and I decided to go one size bigger because they'll fill the wheel well up a little bit better. Look at that molding. Crunch. This car has had its fair share of body work. Need a piece of molding here. This is an 85, first year for this chassis. I need that piece of molding with a little light there. Mine fell off at some point before my time. And this car does have a little bit of rust. Not a lot, but it's got a little bit of rust. A little bit. It's kind of crunched. Someone put it up on a hoist and crunched my pinch welds. It's not rotted, but it's... Well, I'll fix her up. So I've got 4 tires coming for this and 4 tires coming for the G5. And that's it. It's time for NPR News. All the cars here are sitting patiently, waiting to get worked on. But I've got to finish my roof repairs, and I've got to do some work on the neighbor's property next door. And I've got things to do and places to go. Oh, I love it. Genuine factory clamps. Just going to have to replace these with some tower clamps. And look at that. Plastic radiator. Anybody got a nice copper radiator? And I've got to fix my hideaway headlights. They are currently held open with a zip tie. 4 T3s. Original 4 T3s, and my rocket is upside down, heading into the ground. Not a good place for a rocket 88, 98, Toronado, Cutlass, Jetfire, Starfire. Have I got too many cars? Gotta love it. Crank that baby up. Next time, I promise.